Hey y'all, it's your girl D back with another video. It's another book review. The book is called You Are Here by Thich, Nhat, Hanh, Discovering the Magic of the Present Moment. So I got this book from a friend of mine, one of my very good friends, and she gave it to me on my birthday a couple of years ago, which was really, or was it this year? I think it was this year. Girl, yeah, it was this year. So she gave it to me this year for my birthday. And this book is it's an introductory teaching to Buddhism. So I know for me, one of the things I struggle with is being present in the present moment. And a lot of that fear and anxiety that comes from thinking ahead is problematic. This book is about living in the present moment and understanding that life is ever changing and it is always, we're always in the cycle, but nothing is permanent. And even our concepts of life, death, afterlife, whatever you want to call it, are not permanent. So y'all stay tuned for this. Stick around for this book review. I'm gonna go through a couple of things that stood out to me and what really hit me and resonated with my spirit from this particular book. Okay, so in the first chapter, it kind of gives you a breakdown of what the book is about as far as the principles of Buddhism, what they believe as far as how to address emotions and how to address the sensations that you feel in your body. Like, okay, for example, if you're feeling anxiety, I guess from what I understand in Buddhism, the goal is to not fight against that anxiety, but to understand that it is valid, right? So one of the things I highlighted in here, it says, do not fight against pain. Do not fight against irritation or jealousy. Embrace them with great tenderness as though you were embracing a little baby. And that's very deep, because a lot of the time our emotions come out in the wrong way because we're not embracing them as for what they are. So if I'm angry, it will build up in my body, but I'm not saying that I'm angry. I'm saying that I'm agitated or I'm whatever. If you're angry, you're angry. So I think that's a very important concept to grasp from this book, even if you're not a Buddhist or practicing this particular it's not really a religion, but if you're not practicing Buddhism, it's something that you can really gain from, to understand that emotions are valid. We all have emotions. There's nothing wrong with having emotions. Don't run away from it. Just, embrace it and nurture it. Another concept that really stood out to me in this book is the understanding of perception, right? We all have our perception of what's going on, but we could all have different perception. We could all have different understandings. Like, I could say, oh, that person's angry at me for whatever, but that's just my perception. They could really just be having a bad day and be angry about something else, but it's not me. So Thich Nhat Hanh writes in here that perceptions can either be accurate or inaccurate, and every time we have a false perception, suffering occurs. And suffering based on perceptions is so true, because for the most part, our perceptions are not really true. If we think about it, we perceive a situation, we evaluate it through our own consciousness, and how we react is based on how we evaluate it. So I think that is very telling. This book gives you the practice. It goes on to further say we have to look at our perceptions without getting caught by them, which is really profound to me, because we can have our perception, but we should also validate it through whoever, like whatever the circumstance, to say, well, this is my perception of the situation, maybe I should confront it. And it goes to the for me, it goes to the point of not wanting confrontation. A lot of us who are empathetic people, or empaths, or highly sensitive people, we don't like conflict. And Buddhism isn't, from what I gathered from this particular reading, is that conflict is necessary. It's just a concept of life. It's not permanent. So even if you get into a conflict with somebody, right, it's not going to be a permanent conflict, hopefully, if you can resolve that particular situation. So perception is definitely a means of suffering, and if we understand that, we can begin to kind of heal ourselves, I think, in a way, because if we are suffering as a result of how we think and how we view the world, if we can change our views, that brings about more peace for us, right? Oh my gosh, another thing that came up for me. So this chapter, this is only the second chapter, y'all. So I'm in the second chapter, and there's so many different things that I highlighted from this particular book, so I could work on my own self. Moving into 2023, this is a whole, we're getting a fresh start. So reevaluating my own self and figuring out who it is that I can become as a result. So this is particular for me. I'm the type of person, I like to run away from certain problems and not address them head on. And this particular chapter, there's a passage that said, happiness does not seem possible to you here and now, so you look for it in the distant future. The practice consists of stopping that habit of running. Oh my gosh, y'all. If you understand that, if you're somebody that has a problem with running away from whatever, like you're running away from yourself, you're running away from responsibility, you're running away from family, you're running away from whatever, it really is not helping, because at some point you can't run away anymore, right? At some point you have to face what's going on in your life and take responsibility for it and be responsible for your own happiness. So this really stood out to me because I'm the type of person, like, for example, when I get bored of somewhere, I'm like, oh, this place is too whatever, I'm just going to move to another place. And that doesn't solve anything, whatever I'm running from. Like, you can't run away from yourself, y'all. So this book really addresses that in the second chapter about running and learning to find happiness where you are. So the practice of mindfulness is very much rooted in Buddhism, and this book is a really good starter point for people who are trying to jump into the practice. I'm personally not, but I do read a lot of literature, and I'm fine with reading whatever from different faiths, different practices, things like that for myself. I'm very open-minded, so I'll read whatever. But anyway, let me get back to the breakdown of the book. I thought it was a little bit difficult to read just because of how it's written. For me, it kind of is, I don't want to say it's repetitive, but it's a little bit, I don't know what the word, I'll just use repetitive in some of the teachings, but I guess repetition is the best way to embed something into your mind anyway. So I guess that is a good, the repetition of the principles, I guess, is a good way for you to kind of grasp the concepts that they're trying to present in the book. Okay. And then as we go further into the book, they go over the practice and understanding how to transform your past through practicing meditation and through the principles of Buddhism. And the book also touches on healing, our past healing and our traumas, and understanding how we can get freedom from those things that we have. It really stood out to me when this particular passage here, it says, cultivate, that is why you should cultivate freedom through freedom, including freedom from your own concepts and ideas. This is really deep, y'all, because if you think about it, a lot of us hold these ideals and ideas, and we, you know, believe them to be true, we believe them to be absolute. And in reality, all concepts are really, I don't want to say made up, but a lot of them are made up. So our own concepts are, you know, based on our life experiences, our race, our family, our environments, things like that. So if we can even just understand that we can be free from our own concepts and ideas and embrace different concepts, ideas without having attachments, right? It's like, okay, maybe I think this, but also I can accept other forms of thinking, right? So if we're free from that constant, like, a lot of people are very rigid thinking. They don't accept other concepts, they don't see other sides of things, and it's very damaging because it creates a person that's not very I want to say worldly, and not very worldly in the sense of empathy or, you know, understanding relativity or being, yeah, you're not really relatable in that sense, right? Because you can't see somebody's perspective in a sense. So I think that's a very important concept to get from this book, that freedom can be found, but we have to actively engage ourselves in being free from what's holding us, right? Okay. And then I'm gonna go to, you know, touch on the last 2 chapters. There's so many great concepts in this book that I think for me, I'm going to definitely apply them to my life to be more mindful and to be more engaged in the present moment and to really practice self-improvement. I think one of the most important things is the meditation part of things. Being still, being aware of one's body, being aware of one's environment, being still. Like, in our society, American culture, Western culture, actually modern culture in general, we're always taught to go, get the next, you know, always be on the go, no sitting down. So I think to be still and to be in the moment is a very important concept. Obviously, it's a Buddhist concept. I'm not a Buddhist, but hey, if it can help me in my life, I'm gonna apply it. So let's go back to one of the principles here, that everything is constantly changing. Nothing has a permanent identity, right? So we think back to yourself as a person. Are you the same person you were when you were 15? Are you the same person you were when you were in your 20s, if you're, you know, somebody who's past that age like myself? I'm not the same person I was from when I was 15 till now. Like, I've been places, I've interacted with different people, whoop-de-woo. So nothing has a permanent identity is something that, for me, I think it's really profound. I say that about a lot of the concepts in this book, but it's really profound to think of life that way. Nothing is permanent. Even the seasons change, right? So we have to learn to appreciate impermanence and not think of it as I would say, it's not a negative thing. Impermanence is not a negative thing. So that is very profound. And finally, going to the last chapter, they talk about nirvana in this book, and I never knew what that meant in terms of, I never knew it was a Buddhist concept, to be honest. And the term nirvana, I'm reading from the book, which means extinction. Nirvana is the extinction of all concepts and the extinction of the pain that concept causes, or that concepts cause. So they go on to give an example. They said the idea of birth and the idea of death can make you suffer a lot. And we find the idea of non-being terrifying. So Nirvana wants you to get rid of these concepts and understand that everything is a cycle. So even though people die in the sense that we've been, taught, something is always growing. So in order for there to be death, there has to be life. In order for there to be life, there has to be death. So life is constantly going. Everything is constantly going. Everything is a cycle. These concepts are interdependent, and it doesn't make it bad. It doesn't make it good just because we don't understand what it is. But if we reach a state of nirvana, we can get to a point where we understand that all of these concepts, we can be free from. We can be free from like the pain that these concepts cause us, which is really a beautiful thing if you think about it. I know a lot of us, for example, we all are scared of passing away, passing to the other world, or whatever happens when you die. And I guess based from what I gathered from Buddhist concept, you don't have to be afraid of that. And that in a way is very comforting. And I think if you are somebody who has an open mind, and open to learning new principles, open to learning new philosophies of being, I think this is a good starter book. It's only, let me see, it is only 138 pages, and they also give in the back some information on practice centers where you can go and learn. And the author, although I've never read anything about Buddhism, this is my first introductory. I think I will continue to embrace some of the concepts from Buddhism, and I'll have this book in my library. It's called, again, You Are Here by Thich, Nhat, Hanh. You can find this on, obviously, Amazon or one of those platforms, audiobooks. And yeah, get this book if you're open-minded to learning these concepts and want to practice mindfulness for yourself, and have a life of more freedom. So peace, love, bye.